We've all been there. Your dog is lunging at the end of the leash, barking at every tiny noise outside. Or maybe they just won't stop jumping on guests. You know you need to work on these issues, but you have a million other responsibilities and obligations. Finding the time to work with a trainer on a regular basis just feels impossible. You're absolutely exhausted. Then you see an ad for a board and train program. They promise a perfectly behaved dog in just 2 weeks. You can even go on vacation while your dog is housed and trained with a professional. It sounds like a dream, right? You drop off your wild child and pick up the perfect lassie dog. But here's the reality: behind those glossy guarantees is an industry that's completely unregulated. There's a history of mistreatment, abuse, and even dogs dying at board and train centers. While there are some solid board and trains out there, the truth is most are ineffective at best and really traumatic at worst. Today, we're diving into the dark side of board and trains, why they often fail, and how you can spot the rare gems that actually prioritize your dog's well being. Okay, so we are going to get into some of the unsavory training techniques that a lot of these board and train programs use. But first, we have to talk about how dogs actually learn. Because in figuring out how dogs learn, you'll realize why even ethical board and trains really aren't all they're cracked up to be. Here's something a lot of people don't realize: dogs are terrible at generalization. What does that mean exactly? Well, it means that dogs are contextual learners. They're only good at learning a new skill in a very specific context. For example, if you've seen our video on mat training about how to teach your dog a place cue, you know that you can't teach your dog a place cue in your living room and then expect it to work outside at the park. You have to relearn and re-practice that skill in different environments in order for the dog to really nail it down. So a dog might learn how to sit and stay at a perfectly sterile training facility with a professional trainer. But when you get back to your home, in your living room with your smells and your kids running around, it's a completely different story. Everything they've learned goes right out the window. And this is why even good board and trains are a bit of a gamble. If you aren't there learning how to communicate with your dog, the training usually evaporates the minute the trainer drives away. Now, a lot of board and trains will do a few handoff sessions after the initial training program, teaching you what the dog has learned and how to practice those foundation skills in your home. But you're not off the hook. You still need to maintain and practice those skills for weeks, maybe months, maybe forever, albeit with less frequency as time goes on. Maybe the board and train gives you a bit of a leg up, but you still have the lion's share of the work to do at home. And if you have to do the work anyway, what's the point of dropping thousands of dollars? Don't forget, you're going to be working and training with your dog for their entire life. Training isn't just about stopping undesirable behaviors. It's about creating a connection, a relationship between you and your dog. Remember, this isn't a toy. This is a living being you've brought into your home. It's a relationship you have opted into. And dogs can't speak English. So it's going to be well worth your effort to learn how to speak dog, how to connect and communicate with your dog, and how to work with your dog in your home rather than handing the task off to someone else and living with a big old mystery box for the next decade or two. If you're learning something from this video, please take a quick second to like and subscribe to our channel. It is a huge help for us in YouTube's algorithm, and Remy says thank you very much. So if we know that dogs really struggle to generalize, why do these programs promise such fast results? Because most rely heavily on aversives. Think shock collars, e-collars, prong collars, and the like. Pain and fear get fast results. If a dog is terrified of getting shocked, they're going to stop barking pretty quickly. But tools like these are dangerous shortcuts. Look, we're all kind of addicted to instant gratification these days. And we're used to marketers promising us that one more product, one more course, one more program will finally unlock our full potential for $29.99 a month. But if you've ever tried to change, like really change, learn a new skill, pick up a new habit, you know that doesn't happen instantly. Real change is hard. Now, dogs may not be humans, but they're not inanimate objects either. Change is hard for them, just like it's hard for us. We can't program a dog like a computer and install the latest update to get the 3.0 version. We can't DoorDash a better behaved dog. But that's effectively what many board and trains try to sell you on. And hey, I get it. It's understandable that people want to solve their dog's behavior issues quickly. A difficult dog can wreak absolute havoc on your life. I know what that feels like when you're not even sure you can live like this another week because the situation feels so dire. But change, behavior modification, it takes time, and there's no way around that. Board and trains bypass the hard part by using pain and fear through the use of aversives. The problem is when you use aversive tools, the dog isn't really learning. Not really, anyway. They're in a state of learned helplessness. They stop the outward symptoms, the growling, the barking, the lunging, but you haven't actually helped the dog. You haven't taught the dog that screaming children are nothing to be afraid of. You haven't taught them that they don't need to bark and lunge at strange dogs to feel safe. All they've learned is it doesn't matter if you're scared or uncomfortable. Sit down, shut up, and stop crying, or I'll give you something to cry about. Some people are totally fine with this being what your dog learns. And well, that's an issue for a whole different video. We can't get into that here. And really, this video isn't about why it's a bad idea to use aversives to train dogs. It's about board and trains. The long and short of it is, board and trains can make big promises because they use band-aid solutions that don't really address the root cause of your dog's issues. They don't do behavior modification, they just terrify your dog into complying. And you know what's really confusing? You might actually see results, at least at first. Your dog might actually stop lunging at other dogs or stop barking when strangers come into the home. But the underlying emotion, the fear, the stress, the frustration, it's all still there. It's like putting a lid on a boiling pot. Eventually, when that dog comes home and finally decompresses from their oftentimes traumatic experience, that pressure blows. I see so many heartbreaking posts on Reddit from people panicking because their dog suddenly starts growling at them or snapping when they go to touch their collar. They're confused because the dog was fine at the boot camp and even seemed good when they first got home, but now the dog seems more unstable than ever. And because many people don't really know what happened to their dog at the facility or how their dog was treated at the board and train, they're at a total loss as to why their dog is suddenly acting so differently. So, what gives? What happened? Well, the dog has lost a lot of trust. They were sent to a scary place where scary things happened to them, and now they feel even less safe in the world.
And that experience of feeling so scared and unsafe can cause dogs to start exhibiting behaviors that are even more dangerous than what the dog was doing before. So, whereas before maybe a dog growled when a stranger approached, they may now not growl, since they've learned that they will be punished for growling, and instead resort to biting. This is why you'll hear dog trainers tell you to never punish your dog for growling. Growling, and really all of our dog's behavior, is communication. It's a warning that our dog is uncomfortable. When we start cutting off communication and punishing our dog for growling or expressing how they're feeling and giving those outward signs of communication, we leave them with no choice but to escalate to biting. That's why behavior modification is never as simple as just stopping the outward behavior. It's about addressing the dog's underlying experience and emotions. But you won't hear unethical board and trains talking about that. They'll act as if all you need to do is correct, aka punish a behavior, and that will somehow solve all your problems. If only it were that simple.
It's really disgusting to me that businesses like this take advantage of desperate people in their hour of need, only to set them back even further. I can only imagine how disheartening it is to drop thousands of dollars on a training program for your dog, only to have them come home with even more behavior issues. Worse still, I can't imagine the gaslighting that must sometimes happen when a so called trainer tells you that the dog's worsening behavior is a result of you doing something wrong or not following the protocol they gave you. So, does this mean all board and trains are bad? I mean, I'll be honest with you, most are. Like the vast majority of board and trains, in my opinion, are doing little more than selling you snake oil, preying on confused, uninformed, desperate dog parents. But not all of them are terrible. There are some good ones out there. But whether a board and train program, even an ethical, force free one, is a good choice for you is going to depend on what kind of issues you're trying to solve. First, let's talk about what behavior issues board and trains are definitely not good for: anxiety and fear. Board and trains are terrible for dogs that are dealing with anxiety and fear. And a lot of big dog behavior issues like reactivity, excessive barking, and stranger danger stem from stress and anxiety. Sending a fearful dog to a strange place is just a recipe for disaster. My own dog Remy is a great example of a dog who would utterly fail at a board and train program. He's a reactive guy who barks and lunges at dogs who get too close. He struggles a lot with strangers visiting our home, too. While he may come off as this rough and tough pit bull, he's actually incredibly sensitive. So sensitive that even small environmental changes can spike his stress and kick up his arousal. Most of his behavior struggles stem from what an incredibly sensitive little guy he is. Being sent to a board and train program would be deeply traumatizing for him. Being at the shelter where I adopted him from was deeply traumatic for him. That's why he was completely shut down for the first few months when I brought him home. In the past, I've tried taking Remy to group classes, and he is just so overwhelmed and stressed the entire time. It was never a good fit for him. The one time I tried to board him for a short weekend trip, less than 48 hours, he barked the entire time, to the point where his voice was hoarse when I picked him up. He is not one for big environmental changes. So yeah, board and train would have been a disaster for Remy, as it will be for most reactive dogs. Board and trains are also not an appropriate fit for aggression issues, mostly for the same reasons I've already detailed, but also because dealing with an aggressive dog requires long-term management and owner involvement. You are the one that needs to become an expert at managing and handling an aggressive dog. You'd be much better off booking a 10-session package with a certified animal behavior consultant to come work with you in your home over paying for a board and train program. Let me just repeat that. If you have an aggressive dog, you need to be working with a certified animal behavior consultant, certified ideally through IAABC, with the next best being CCPDT. You cannot work with a dog trainer because anyone can call themselves a dog trainer. And you can't really work with a behaviorist because anyone can call themselves a behaviorist too. There are so many issues with dog training being such an unregulated industry. You need to work with someone who is certified and has proven a certain baseline of knowledge and experience when it comes to aggression cases. I can't tell you how many pet parents I've seen spin their wheels working with unqualified individuals and becoming just completely burnt out by the time they actually stumble upon qualified professionals. So, yeah, you absolutely need to be working with someone in your home. We have a video showing you how to find a certified behavior consultant. So, check that out if you need help finding help. And it will probably be even cheaper than what you would have spent at a board and train. Okay, let's talk about when board and trains can be appropriate. Board and trains can be great for teaching a puppy basic cues like sit down, place, in a fun, positive environment. Some board and trains can be good for getting your pup started with potty training, as long as they're boarding in their own home. Board and trains can also be good for owner burnout with a high energy dog. If you're at your breaking point with a high energy, high drive dog, a high quality facility can give you a much needed reset. Getting your dog into an active, stimulating environment can be great for burning off energy while you go on vacation. Board and trains can also be suitable for high level skills, things like competition obedience or specific task training, provided the trainer is using force free methods. If you're determined to use a board and train, you have to be a detective. Here's how to identify a facility that cares about science and ethics. First, transparency is always going to be key. Always visit a facility before you consider boarding your dog there. This is really true for any boarding facility, even if they're not going to be training your dog. If they don't let you see where the dogs sleep or if they don't have cameras you can access, just walk away. Ask about what tools they use and pay attention to the jargon. If they mention balance training, dominance, alpha, or corrections, that's usually code for using pain based tools. Look for trainers who use positive reinforcement and are certified by organizations like CCPDT or IAABC. The transfer plan. A good board and train will insist on multiple handoff sessions where they teach you how to maintain the training they've done. If they just drop off the dog and leave, that is a huge red flag. Research the facility. Always run a quick Google search for any program you're considering. Some board and trains have actually had dogs die under their care or have even sold boarded dogs off for cash. Granted, this isn't all that common, but a little bit of research into the legitimacy of the facility you're considering can protect you against every pet parent's worst nightmare. No guarantees. Real trainers know that every dog is an individual and dogs are not robots. Anyone guaranteeing a behavior change in 14 days is just selling you snake oil. At the end of the day, there's no substitute for the bond you build with your dog through consistent one on one training. It takes longer and it can be frustrating, but the results are real, not temporary.
And they're built on trust rather than fear.
And like I kind of mentioned earlier, my heart really does go out to folks considering board and train programs because these programs are pricey and they're usually only being considered by people who are feeling super, super desperate and trapped. So I just want to say, I get it. I feel you. I know what it's like to feel in way over your head with an animal in your home. I know how terrifying and overwhelming that is. Unfortunately, board and trains are the kind of thing where the more you feel like you really need it, the less likely it is to be a good choice for you. And I am so, so sorry there are people out there selling you false dreams in your hour of need. I really just find that so despicable. There's no easy answer here, no shortcut. And I'm sorry for that too. But I hope this video can encourage you to put your energy towards working with a certified animal behavior consultant who actually can help you. Because, training burnout is real. And opting to work with legitimate folks in the beginning is going to save you a lot of heartache and pain down the road. And just know you're not alone. You're really not. There are so many people out there going through behavior issues with their dogs. So at least take a small shred of comfort in knowing you're not the first or the last person to be dealing with this stuff. And if you're feeling overwhelmed, we have a ton of resources for you at Canine of Mine and other videos on this YouTube channel. So check them out. Hopefully you'll find something that can help you, at least right now, while you find an appropriate professional to work with. If any of you have had experience with board and trains, I would love to hear about your experience in the comments, positive or negative. I want to hear all your stories, the good and the bad and the so-so. And don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. Thanks guys, I'll see you next time.